Hey folks, well, welcome into Tree Chat. Now today's episode something a little bit different. I'm literally in my backyard. My house is just here, and I'm just going to do a bit of a clean up today down here. And I thought, why don't I show you guys what I do when I'm potting up seedlings? So you might recognize this area from my karamu video. That tree's just there. And in that video we walked down this path here and we saw a bunch of self-sown seedlings just spread by the birds. We've got about a block of native bush about 400 meters that way, and there's another one about 300 meters that way, which is really cool. We get heaps of tuis and karo flying between, and those guys come and park up in these trees and they drop a bunch of berries out. So we get all sorts of seedlings popping up, which is really cool. So before I go through today, tidy up this area, let's have a look. I have seen there's a few self-sown species through here. I'll show you guys what I look for, and then just really easy, what do we do? How do we get those seedlings out, pot them up, and then we can plant them on to somewhere we actually want them. Having a look at what we've got in here, team. Plenty of weeds, there's nightshade, there's grass, clover, there's all sorts, but here we go. There's a little karamu, and he's an excellent size for us to dig out and pot on. And then just over here we have a titoki, a cabbage tree. And I do grow plenty of these from seed, but let's dig this guy out as well and we'll pot him up. So this karamu is just growing in the gravel path here, and it's only a clay under there. So it's not the best area for seedlings to be growing, but as you can see they do, where there's a will there's a way, the weeds as well. Got a bit of grass there. So what I'm going to do when they're in the gravel, just pull away a bit of gravel first. You can kind of see how far down that seed has got through the gravel. We can see now the roots are just branching out from the main stem. I have a trowel, just a garden trowel, and I'm going to try and dig down, even though it's still quite gravelly. I'm going to dig down as much as I can and try and get as much of the roots out intact as I can. Crikey, plenty of gravel. That's good. There's some roots here you can see coming out, which is nice. It's kind of spread out under there. Okay, there we go. Good stuff. That's going to work well. We've tried to keep as much root structure as possible. If I just yanked it out, it would rip off a lot of those fine roots, do a lot of damage. It'd be much harder for the seedling to come back from that. So this is excellent. I've got a bucket here. I'm just going to pop that in. Going to do the same now with this kōuka. Got plenty of weeds around it. They're all going to get hucked out later on. Same deal, clear the gravels out. This guy's a little bit bigger, so it might be a bit more challenging to try and get our roots out as best we can. You can see it's quite wet, the ground. It is a pretty bad time to be doing this. We're at the start of summer, so the best time to be doing this is actually in the winter when the ground's really wet. The seedlings come out easier. Also, they're dormant, they're not growing as much. So if you think about it, you're taking them out of one environment, popping them in the other. If they're sort of in a dormant phase anyway, they're not trying to grow straight away. So if there's any trauma to the roots, they kind of just sit there and recuperate a bit. And then when the growing season comes around, they take off. But as I said, I'm clearing out this path, so we're doing it now. And I think we'll be fine. So I'm trying to get as much roots as I can. Okay, this one's a bit easier. Just break a bit of this excess clay off. We don't need all that. There's some stones and stuff there too. There we go, there's roots and stuff coming through. So that's going to work. I think that one will be very successful. Plenty of roots there, so it's going in the bucket too. Walking on here further, team. Here's another good looking karamu. Now, this area over here is quite interesting. We've got a bunch of small seedlings here. So I'd say obviously there's been a nice branch above us here. We're just under a gracillinia tree. There's also a gross privet up there. We can see a lot of these guys here are not good species. So these with the pointy leaves are privet, which is a pest in this country. So unfortunately they're quite prolific fruiters, eaten by many bird species who then spread the seed out. So if I see these guys, I'm just ripping them out. We don't want them. So you can see there's quite a few of these privets there, but in amongst them we've got some good stuff. We have a tiny kahikatea. So there's plenty of kahikatea in the stand of bush just near us. So we get heaps of these guys. That's the ferny one there, which is a just germinated juvenile kahikatea. Most of these are privet, but we also have here, this is a junior pseudopanax. So we do have a pseudopanax tree just behind me. It's a coastal five finger, and that is also a prolific fruiter, which is good. It's a native, we like these, and we get a lot of those popping up. So you can see the rounded leaves, a bit different from the privet, slight serrations as well. That is a juvenile houpara, Pseudopanax lawsoni. So let's go ahead and grab a couple of those out. We need to be a bit more delicate with these small seedlings, because as you'd imagine it's easier to damage them. We don't care about that with the privet though, they can bugger off. So again, I'll clear out the gravels. We can usually just pull these guys out. There we go. Because it is a young seedling, it's just got that one long root so far, so it does make our life a little bit easier. Grab those pseudopanax now. We might not need our trowel for these ones as well. Get rid of those privet. So we've got a couple here side by side. And they're going quite deep, so I think I will get my trowel in there and try and dig underneath them if I can. There we go. So we've got some agapanthus roots in there as well. There we go. There's a little houpara. And our second one. Next area I want to show you guys is out by my deck, right next to my house. Got a titoki tree here. There's a pseudopanax there, the houpara. And underneath the trees, there's a whole like pebble garden area, which is actually pretty good for catching seed and growing seedlings. So let's have a look in there. It's a pretty good area, this one team. We've got heaps going on. There's plenty of pseudopanax. We've got kahikatea. We've got some weeds. We have karo. We've got a yara. Over here there's another kahikatea, but we've also got a couple of titoki. This titoki might even be getting a bit on the large side, but we can't have it growing there anyway, so we're going to have a go at getting this out. It's basically a bunch of these like river pebbles. I think there's a weed mat under here somewhere from the prior owners. Can be a tough environment. Once they get bigger, we'll give it a go. That should be alright, I reckon. Some good roots there. Grab this other titoki. Got a big chunk of clay with that guy actually, which will be fine. All the roots will be contained in there, probably in the top of that clay. There we go. It's going to work. Excellent. This one here, team, this is our karo, our native pittosporum crucifolium. Very prolific seeders, so I have these popping up everywhere as well. But I do like to add them to my planting, so I'm going to get this guy out and we'll pot it up. It's reasonably damp in here. We've had like 70 mil of rain this week, so even though it's starting to get into summer, it's still okay to get these guys out. There we go, look at those roots. It's going to work. That guy will grow growing nicely. The last one I'm going to get for today is another karo, guys. This one's a bit bigger. So let's have a look how his roots look under these pebbles. Oh yeah, that looks alright to me, I reckon. Oh, that's come out his ears. Didn't even need our trowel. Nice fibrous roots there, so that one's going to pot up good as well. Well, it's a hot one, team. I've come to the shade here on my potting bench, and what I've actually done, I've added a bit of water to my bucket with our seedlings, just because I've been mucking around getting the camera ready and stuff. Don't want these guys to dry out at all. We need to keep those roots damp. If you're out and about and you're not close to home, you can do the same with a bit of water. Or the other way is, if you have like a wet rag, you can wrap the roots up around that. Just keep them from drying out, keep the plant from wilting, and then it's ultimately going to die if it gets too stressed. So trying to keep the stress levels low for the plant, just like ourselves, which is excellent. I'm going to go ahead now, pot them up. It's pretty easy, but I'll show you how to do that. Going to go ahead and start with a couple of our bigger ones here, guys. Which was titoki, karamu, other titoki, and a kōuka, cabbage tree. So we've managed to keep plenty of roots, so these guys should really flourish. Next step, we're going to just put these in a pot with my standard potting mix, and honestly just use whatever pot or vessel you've got. You could even use like an old honey pot or something, just drill some holes in the bottom. But I've got a random pot here. I'm just going to put some potting mix in it, and I'm just trying to correspond the size of the pot to the size of the seedling, so we don't want a giant pot for a little one like that. But for our kōuka, that's going to work. So I've got heaps of roots there. I'm just leaving all the clay and stuff on the roots. Give it a little firm down. And a bit of water, plenty of water actually. It is getting hot, and also with trauma to the roots like that, we want to make sure they're really settled in, and heaps of water around them. But yeah, that's essentially how easy it is, guys. Because it is so hot though, we need to make sure these guys are going in the shade and getting plenty of water. So I'm going to find a shady spot. I might even put these under my bench here. Make sure they're watered, probably be every day at the moment because it is getting hot, and they should come away good as gold. I'm going to go a slightly smaller pot for the two titoki because they're not quite as big or have larger root systems as those last two. Going to go even smaller pot for these guys. Our last 5, they're much smaller, so they don't need as big a pot. I found these like little round ones to be pretty good size for this. You notice I've put the gloves on, team, so I always try and use gloves, if I remember, with potting mix, just due to the possible fungal and bacterial stuff within that potting mix, just to be safe. Anyway, back to this. So I've got my smaller pot for these smaller seedlings, repeating exactly the same process. So pretty similar process to the pricking out video, which you guys might have seen. Except in this case they're not in a seed tray. We've just obviously grabbed them from out in the wild, and we've tamed them, but very, very similar. And I'm going to be pretty careful with the last few here, team, because they are very small. But again, it's the same thing. I mean, those are really nice roots. So if you're pricking out a tray of those, you'd be pretty happy. That's our karo. Plenty of water. and our 2 pseudopanax to end. These guys have probably got the least root system, so I'm just going to burrow a bit of hole in our potting mix. Being careful with these guys a bit. Done. Here's our final result, guys. Once again, those larger seedlings in the larger pots, smaller ones in little pots, and it is, as I said before, it's not the best time of year. It is coming to summer, so I'm going to put these guys in the deep shade, plenty of water, and they should come alright. That's all I got for you today, guys. Hope that's been helpful to some people. So good luck if you're out there finding some seedlings, and happy growing. Well, folks, you've got a bonus update here because I wasn't super organised on the editing. So checking back in 3 weeks after I potted these plants up, and all are looking really healthy. They've just been in the shade. I've made sure they've had heaps of water and they are looking good. Catch you next time.